Hello, hello, hello. Happy Halloween. Okay, we're making a video, and the sky cleared out into incredible clouds. It started out with a very dark gray sky. Then it checkered out into dark gray sheep, and then into white sheep, and now the sheep stuff is going over there, and it is so like cotton candy. Yeah, you can still see some of the sheep there. And yesterday I saw contrails, and I don't know what they're spraying, but no, I don't like to see that. But this I like to see. I like to see sheep clouds. They are very, very nice. Thank you, Blue God. 111. Yay! Yes. Blue God agrees with me on that. Yes, and the baby dog is there. My camera guard. I forgot to leave the camera guard in my room. Camera guard is always about to slide off, but I have it on the keyboard. So it's a real lousy, dirty camera guard, but it's nicely shaped and molded now for the camera, and that works very well. So where's the baby dog? Where's the baby dog? Oh, he's right behind that straw that straw mountain. That is the straw mountain from the Argentinian pink pampas grass that Paul mulched. We use that for composting and stuff like that, and gardening. It's really nice. So yeah, I don't like that old basketball thing there. I wanted to take that off, but Paul didn't want me to. So whatever. It's like from 1930 or something. That's when this house was built, in 1930. That was when my dad was born. Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was pre Second World War. That is antique. No, okay, so, or almost antique. This house. Yes. So yeah, there I meditated a little bit here, and I was thinking, what kind of story should I tell on Halloween? And I decided I've experienced a bunch of supernatural stuff, but most of that stuff is not very, how do I word myself? It's not exciting enough for the majority of people. So, but there's one story that is, if it wasn't so sad, that story, it would be pretty darn exciting and thrilling. So, and I told Linda Moulton Howe about it because that just ties right into Linda's stories that she has experienced herself, and the stories of other people that have come forward. Most of those stories are not real, but there are some. There's a handful of stories among them that are real. I'm pretty sure of that. So from 1,000 stories, there may be 3 or 4 stories that are for real. But that's about the ratio. Okay, but here's a story I experienced, and it is totally real. I am absolutely hand on my heart. Yeah. This is not made up. I was 11 years old. We were on a vacation in Kenya. There was a bird flying by. I have been in Kenya at at the Indian Ocean several times with my parents and my brother. About 5 times. Every time we went there was for Easter vacation because around March it is bitter cold in Germany. It is so ice cold, you can't stand it. You couldn't sit like this here. This is where I'm at here. This is way farther towards the equator where I'm at here. I'm at the same about the same latitude as Côte d'Azur, France, or I would say Monaco. I think this is about, yeah, Portugal, Monaco. This is about the same latitude, and it is a wonderful weather. Really, really nice. I mean, sometimes it gets a bit cold, a bit rainy and stuff, but it doesn't. It usually doesn't go down to freezing, even in the winter time. And if it happens, only for maybe a day or two, and then it clears up again. But it doesn't go. It would. I don't think it goes below freezing here, even in the winter time. So I like that. That's nice. LA is even warmer, of course, but it's too crowded. I would like to live at the equator. I would like to live in Boca Chica, at Starbase, Texas. That would be amazing. Someone took an amazing photo of the Falcon 9 start into the sky, and it was drawing some kind of like a half circle as it was going up. And this photo is amazing because he was standing right at low tide at the beach, and the water had receded, and I guess there's no steep decline down into the ocean. It's pretty level, and so the beach was wet, and it was reflecting that Falcon 9 light beam, and it created a sea. And it's amazing photo, and that photo makes me want to live in Boca Chica because it's nice and warm, and the ocean is very has a very gradual descent into the ocean, so it's quite level, and it must be nice. When the water is high, you can just be wading out there with your shorts on and just be knee deep in the water for a long stretch. And I like that. I really like that, and I like warm weather. I really do. So Kenya is or used to be a paradise. I mean, the entire equator is a paradise. It's just incredibly sad to see the environmental destruction and corruption that's happening, caused by humans, caused by any race, okay, any kind of person. The greed is, I think, the vast majority of people are greedy, and I think that the people with pathological greed, they make up about 40%. That's my rough estimate. Could be higher. So I mean, right there, that's why we have so many problems. Okay? That's why they're destroying the equator, the paradise. That's what we equate with paradise. It's very sad. So I hope that Boca Chica stays nice now that Elon Musk is there, and I think they're gonna be influencing people in a good way. So I'm sure, and he's definitely gonna be influencing the public in a good way now on Twitter. So good things are going to be coming. He said that, and I know it. I believe in it 100%. I know this is the entry point what into a paradise, but we start slow, of course. The opposition will try to throw a lot of obstacles into the path. We have already seen this, so they will not stop. But with more and more positive education and freedom of speech, and giving everyone the right to say something, putting all of our thoughts together, and seeing the whole picture from all the way around, not just from one lopsided view. So then we can make much better evaluations on the situation. This will shape our view of the world. That's incredible. Okay, that will open up totally new opportunities for us, for peacemaking, and for better education. Elon Musk even has started a completely new school. All of his kids are in that new school. Okay? And that school is based on learning in form of a game, like play, play learning. This is how we really learn. We learn through something that we can identify with, something that makes sense to us, something that pertains to our world. Judy Krishnamurti talked about this as well. So he developed schools like that already. Rockwood Park, England, and in India, where people are learning through the creation, the creative process, like play and positive games, not video games, positive games that are based on making something positive, making something peaceful, something that makes other people happy, that helps the world, problem solving, in an interesting way. So all of this is like, there are some good video games that are based on problem solving, like mathematical problem solving, some maze garden type of problem solving. I did some of those. They're very nice and they're very stimulating for the brain. I can feel that really circulates my brain if I have to do those maze garden games. And even, I'm not even interested in kind of like gaining points or anything. It's just interesting to solve these riddles. So, and this is like, that's game play, problem solving. That's something that pertains to us, something that's interesting, something that's beautiful. So that's how it goes. But anyway, I want to tell the story of what happened in Kenya, and I have talked about this before. I don't know, one or two or maybe three times already in the past. I have made a video about this, and I don't know if I emphasized this part, particularly this one part, that I don't know how I told that story, but if I look back on what happened there, so it was so I mean, I could not make any sense out of this as a child. It was so bizarre. But I myself, at age 11, I brushed it off as being half asleep or having a hallucination. I thought, this is only happening in my brain. That can only be happening in my brain. I had high fever, and so it was all completely brushed off as a fever induced delirium mental state where I was hallucinating. But so what happened was, let me tell the story from the beginning. I was 11, and my little brother had tooth problems, and we were at that hotel quite far away from Kenya, from the city, and because my brother had these terrible tooth problems, and there was no dentist or anywhere near or in the hotel, we had to all go to Kenya. We have to take a taxi or bus. I forgot now how we got there. And we went to the dentist. Dentist from India was taking care of my brother's tooth, and that went well. And after the dentist visit, we went to a local cafe. That was a big mistake. Okay, so, and at that local cafe, I drank mineral water out of a glass that was served to me. And that glass was not clean. Okay, it had salmonella on it. And I was the only one who caught the salmonella. And we got back to the hotel. I didn't feel very well. I felt very, very sluggish and very tired. And then we went to bed. I didn't think much of it, you know. We fell asleep. I fell asleep. I had the worst dream, the most lonely dream in this, what was the salmonella growing exponentially, causing fever, and causing this incredibly vivid and painful and lonely dream. I dreamed that I was alone in space. It was all dark. I was floating in space. And the only thing I had was a red telephone, like the ones we used to have in the 80s when they first came out with button telephones. Boy, that was like, oh my goodness, we have a button telephone. So you press, before it was a dial, that was even much worse. So like a real bulky, big, bulky, like a very, very antiquated red, all red, shiny red, completely new button telephone with a receiver real big and bulky like a shower head. Yeah. So I took that receiver, I put it on my ear, and I pressed the buttons, and I called my parents from space. And I think my mother answered the phone. I think that's how it went. And there was this coldness. There was a coldness between my mother and me. Total coldness, ice coldness. And I didn't understand. It didn't make sense to me. This is the most brutal thing in the world. When a baby is rejected by the mother, could be emotionally or physically, that's the most brutal thing and the most lonely and the most confusing and damaging and like psychologically damaging and traumatizing thing there is. So that's what I dreamed. And then I woke up and it was an absolutely horrific dream. I was so shaken up by that dream. This coldness from my mother, and here I am in space, so far away, reaching out to her, help me. And she didn't want to help me. Ice cold. She barely said anything. And I woke up and I felt like vomiting. and I could barely walk. I was in a delirium. I walked into the bathroom. I stood by the door of the bathroom. My brother was actually in the same room, sleeping too, in a different bed. We had one hotel room, and my parents had another hotel room. And I stood by the door, and for like in the threshold of the bathroom. I couldn't see anything. And as I turned the light on, very bright light, in that bathroom, it was almost like a scream. I had to make pee pee. I wanted to go to the toilet that was at the other end of the room. And right next to the toilet, like hovering over the toilet, kind of leaning over the toilet, stood a monster. I had never seen something like this before in my entire life. And it literally was a reptilian, alien type of monster. I mean, so bizarre that that if one sees something like this, and that monster was looking right at me into my eyes and had some kind of grin on his face, like a like a curious grin, like almost like I never went into the details of this. I told the story about the monster and that I just brushed it off as hallucination. But I think that goes much deeper than that. Much, much, much deeper. The dream was definitely a psychological dream. That was a psychogram about how I feel, how I felt let down by my mother in general. And it's very scary, all of this, very, very painful. And I was just staring at that monster. I don't even think I screamed. I was even, I was so shocked about what I saw. That monster standing there completely silently, just looking at me. And it had scales, and it was standing on two legs. It had a humanoid type of body. The fingers were tapering out long, and the fingernails were tapering out very, very long. But like claw-like, not like human finger, like claw-like fingernails. And the whole body was covered with with light green, actually a pastel green, which I like normally. But on that monster, I mean, that was just extremely frightening because I didn't think this existed. My parents are highly skeptical people. They are agnostic, atheist agnostics, and I have always been told the supernatural doesn't exist. I always knew it does exist, but they have always been at it. So to make sure that I understand that there are no ghosts and there are no monsters and so on. And supernatural stuff is just made up by our minds. My dad always said the brain is the cosmos, and yes, it is, but it goes much deeper than that. Okay, obviously. Today, I came to the conclusion of panpsychism because there's way more than we can see or perceive. Way more, infinitely much more. Okay. And so what happened was I had a fever-induced delirium, and this delirium caused my so-called discrimination ribbon in the brain to be partially laid to rest, like it was disabled for, I don't know, a short time, maybe an hour or something. This was the only thing that I experienced, and the next day I didn't experience the same thing. But the salmonella infection kept getting worse and worse and worse. But I want to stay with this monster for a moment, just reflecting on this monster. I want to, I'm trying to recall exactly how that monster looked like. A humanoid, reptilian monster that was not tall. That monster was shorter than me. That monster was about, I would say, about 5 feet tall. So I'm 5'9". But I don't want to mess with that monster. No, no, I was so shocked at what I was seeing after I turned that light on. Brightly lit bathroom with this monster hovering over the toilet, looking at me with this expression of extreme curiosity and excitement, and almost kind of like the monster was kind of startled why I would be, I don't know if I screamed or I was standing there in shock. So the monster was kind of looking at me like, why are you looking at me with shock? It's like, bro, you know, why would I be in shock seeing something this bizarre? I mean, anyone anyone would be in shock. Nancy Pelosi too. I didn't want to bring up Nancy Pelosi, but I mean, or Hillary Clinton. Everyone would be in shock, right? Or Paul Pelosi. the the comments on Twitter. I laughed real hard. Oh my gosh. I mean, everyone would be in total shock if they saw a monster like that standing over their toilet, looking at them like, what's the matter? You know, why you look at me like this? You know? Like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So the discrimination ribbon in the brain, which was discovered by Dr. Hinderk Emrich at Medizinische Hochschule Hannover, Germany. My parents know him. I know him. I have been to his office a few times. He prescribed me Prozac. Ooh, ew, yikes. So that was a long time ago. But he was doing research. I mean, he was very, very kind of like good, not friends, but knows my parents very well, and I guess they had a lot to do with them. My dad is in a Rotary Club, and he is, and they were hanging out there and discussing stuff, discussing certain scientific things and stuff. So that's what they do at the Rotary Club in Germany. So they get different professions together that bring their discoveries to the group, and they discuss that. So we knew Dr. Emrich very well. Dr. Emrich died a couple of years ago, and he was very old also. older even than my parents. And so I liked him, and but I think he was very set in his ways in terms of cause and effect and all of this. But a lot of scientists are. But what I find very courageous about him is that, and I always challenge people, so I've always been challenging people, everyone, because I want people to look at things from different perspectives. I think that's very, very important. That's vitally important. Not just from one perspective or from the perspective that the ego wants, or the personal storyline. So, or the personal research focus, like, here, see, I told you this is the outcome, but be willing to accept a different outcome or a different causality in during the research. That's an honest researcher who is willing to look at it from a completely neutral perspective and be willing to accept the truth, no matter what the truth may be as the scientific research outcome. So, or the causalities, and look at the different variables and the diffusing variables and so on. But what I thought was very, 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 very good and very innovative and very courageous of Dr. M. Emrich, Dr. Hindak Emrich, is that he, no, baby dog, no, 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 no. There's the camera guard. It just fell. Okay, whatever. But what I thought was very, very, very courageous is that he took on that subject in general. I mean, most scientists would shy away from this. What he discovered in his patients, and he had a lot of clients who had experimented with LSD, and that was all during that flower power era that he discovered that. And through those people, and then some of them have died also. And he was very interested in looking at the brain formation, the brain. That was before they had these tomographies where they could actually see the different areas in the brain lit up, through. They didn't even have to cut the brain open. They could just, they can put you into a PET scanner or any of those tomography scanners, those MRI scanners, and they can see the activity in your brain. So it's some kind of like what they call positron emissions. So I guess some kind of passive scanning of the brain. I don't think that is very invasive. So I don't know. But through that they can see the different formations in the brain and the activity, and they can see the blood flow to certain areas, and they can see when a specific formation or area in the brain doesn't get enough blood flow or may even be severed or damaged in some way. And so, but that was before, during his time, when he discovered the discrimination ribbon. That was even before those tomographies. He had to actually cut cadavers open after people had died. He would look at the brain and compare those brains of LSD users to those brains of people that had not done LSD. And what he found out is that this one formation that people have in the brain is, it's like near the brainstem, between the brainstem and and the limbic system quite deep into the brain. That is some kind of filtration. It is an information filtration. It actually filters out information that we perceive with our eyes, with all of our senses. So, but the majority of scientists would not accept that. They will still hang on to this. Oh, this is a hallucination. That is just something the brain creates, but it's not. It's actually exactly reversed, and that just turns the entire picture upside down and inside out. Because I mean, it's a revolutionary discovery. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake worked on this, of course, as well, also at that time already. And there are some few courageous scientists that have gotten into it. Terence McKenna, of course, has done a lot of researching on this and also experimenting on himself. Done many Berkeley scientists that have experimented on themselves with this kind of stuff. And the scientific community was quite divided, but the majority were definitely not, they were not willing to accept that there is more in our environment than we can perceive when in our natural closed, I wouldn't say closed minded state, and it's not a discrimination in a psychological way. So there it is a filtration in the brain that discriminates. They use that word, but it filters out information. It doesn't let certain information that comes from the ether, because the air here between me and this tree, or between me and the greenhouse, is not just air. You know, you think what you see here in the video, that you see the tree or you see the sky, you see my face, but there's a whole lot more going on in this ether, in the realm, in the microcosmos, in the subatomic realm, okay, that whirls around us at all times. There can be ghosts whirling around us, but we don't perceive it. Sometimes people have a bit more of a perception of that, and they feel uneasy. They feel like there's something over there that I don't know what it is, but I feel like over there in that corner, it feels like there is a person that's looking at me. Okay, and Rupert Sheldrake did research also with feeling stared at. So he's written books on this particularly. So, but all of these people, Hindak Emrich and Rupert Sheldrake, and all of those people that have taken this subject on and have really looked into it without brushing it off as just some kind of brain phenomenon, or some kind of brain making up stuff. My dad is definitely not on board with this. So, although he has a whole bunch of C books in his shelves, so parapsychology. And at age 11, that's when I got interested in all of this. I don't know whether I got interested before that happened with that alien that I saw in Kenya, or afterwards. I can't really remember. But it was around age 11 when I started to read these books, these sea books that my dad had over his bed in them. He had real big shelf case, went all the way up to the ceiling, full of parapsychology books. So, and some of these stories scared me very much, but I knew that this is true. I could instinctively feel it. I knew there was way more because I've also felt it, as a child already. So And maybe because my discrimination ribbon isn't closed, like isn't functioning, if you want to use that word, in this evolutionary sense, so as it is supposed to function in order for us to function better in our daily lives. Because if we are constantly flooded with the ether, that's what's going on in the ether, then in the subatomic world, in energy formations, energy clusters that will come and visit us or whirl around us, if we're constantly bombarded with that, then how can we even function? We were like constantly like, like me with that alien, like, in that mental state. How can anyone, I mean, whether I'm in a delirium or not, how can I function in my daily life if there is an alien standing over the toilet? I know I can't even go to the toilet. I would have to go make pee pee in the garden or something. So I was so shocked when I saw that alien with the kind of like a crocodile, the skin, like scaly, with this pastel green scaly skin, very much like my crocodile imitation leather purse, very much like that. The skin, very very much. I have a strong affinity towards that. But when I saw that I mean that was so scary because when we see something like that is so out of the ordinary. I mean, I had been watching Starship Enterprise. They have had that in Germany too. They had synchronized that into German, and we were all fans of that and all of those shows. But I was always into sci-fi and always fascinated with aliens and stuff like that, and werewolves and Jetis and so on. But I always thought, and I also would rather think that this is just some exciting fairy tale or something, and that doesn't pertain to the real world. And apparently, it's not really in this world, of 3D, sort of. It is in the world, but it's also not in the world. So it is in the world in the ether. So it's definitely there. So just because we can only see the 3D stuff, that is actually manifested into carbon formations. The dog, the tree, my skin, what the computer, whatever we touch, it is the 3D world, the actual formation, the computer, the raw oil materials, plastic, carbon, the tree, amino acids, the stuff that manifests. But there's also a world of the ether, the subatomic world. There's a lot going on there. There's infinitely much going on. And I realize that now. And I came to that conclusion that everything consists of energy. And energy shows itself in different forms. Okay. And so this monster was there. If I didn't have the momentary disabling of that discrimination ribbon, I would have gone right over there and made pee pee with that alien touching me, basically, with the hands all over my body from the alien. And I would not have perceived that. So I would have literally run into that alien, okay? And maybe the alien would have also partly gone into my body, like in the ether, you know. So there's a lot going on in that way, a lot going on. And but this alien didn't seem that alien didn't seem dangerous. That alien seemed just extremely interested. But maybe there was a baby alien. Maybe there was a child like me that wanted to make contact, right? But for me, it was so out of this world that when we see something so out of this world, we get scared, you know, like, for example, Charles Darwin would travel around the whole world, and he would go to places where people have never seen someone from England or Europe, and they would be frightened, they would be scared. That's unusual. Who is that? What's going on? What is that? That being there? And then, you know, he would offer them something. He would offer them coins or something interesting or food, and then they would get used to it. So they will see, oh, he means well. So in the same sense, that alien that I saw was just extremely, extremely interested in meeting me. And I was extremely frightened. And I didn't go into the bathroom. I I ran outside into the hallway and I hammered on my parents' hotel room. Hammered and hammered with my fist against, and I said, Mommy, 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 please come, please come and help me. I'm making video. And she reluctantly opened the door, half asleep, and she said, What's the matter? In a rude way. I mean, if a child does that, you know, I would go like, Baby, what's going on? You know. Not my mother. She didn't like me really. So, and that's why I had that dream also. And I said, You have to come into my bathroom, you have to see this. There is a monster standing over the toilet. And she comes into the bathroom, the lights were still on. She says, I don't see a monster. There's nothing there. And I didn't see the monster anymore. The monster left when my mother came there. So I think those monsters are afraid too. So we always interpret like ultimate superpower. When we see something like this, we think, or perceive something like this, they must have ultimate superpower. Right? No. Why should they have that much more power than we have just because they are in the ether world? So, and maybe some of them are babies that are just so curious that they use a gap in that energetic field like that to make themselves seen. So they go like, oh, she has a momentary discrimination ribbon disabling. I'm going to show myself to her in that moment. Okay, and so that could very well be happening. Yeah, and that being didn't have hair. The head was actually the head had these dinosaur scales that go up a little bit, like the crocodiles have, and like what's that, the stegosaurus or whatever they're called. They have a little bit of those spikes, and find that very interesting. All of that. What if they have evolved from larger dinosaurs? What if they have evolved from a Tyrannosaurus, and they evolved into, I mean, this is the first time that I'm having these thoughts now. I'm thinking about this as I'm making this video. So I'm meditating on this. I am trying to make sense out of this as I'm making this video here, talking to you. And it helps me also. It makes me feel like I have a friend who sits there with me, brainstorming on this. I mean, it's just a possibility, that why do they look like this? And maybe they have evolved from the Tyrannosaurus. The Tyrannosaurus was already walking on two legs with little itty bitty, like those little itty bitty arms on the sides. But then who knows, maybe they could have reshaped themselves and the arms got longer and then morphing into a humanoid form and stuff. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Yes, I am. Be careful. Okay. So I think this is super, super, super fascinating, all of this, for sure. So the light is weird. Always putting my face completely into a shadow. This is bad. Uh, uh, I'm trying to figure out. I look like my my whole body is pasted in front of a green screen, but this is not a green screen. This is literally green behind me. I am in nature. We make our garden all natural. Looks really good. I like it like that. So I want to feel like I'm in nature, and it really feels like it. I'm so grateful for this big, big spruce tree and the other trees, and all the other trees around it, the Oregon grape, and the birds coming to visit. It's wonderful. Absolutely, absolutely love it. So, but my mother was really rude and wasn't nice at all, didn't give me a hug, didn't comfort me. But I went back to bed. I felt really, really bad. I felt really sick in my stomach. And then when I woke up a couple of hours after that, I fell asleep again. I woke up again, and I had full force salmonella infection, was throwing up nonstop, diarrhea nonstop. And instead of getting me help, she just stood there by the window and stared outside the window and did nothing. And after several days of this salmonella infection, which could have killed me, if she had waited any longer, it would have killed me. Like 3, 4 days with that salmonella infection, and my mother does nothing. Matter of fact, she looked like she was kind of waiting for me to die. That's what that looked like. It's so sad. And at some point, I had lost a whole lot of weight, and just green stuff was coming out of me. Green gallbladder fluid. And I couldn't get out of bed anymore. I finally said to her, "Mommy, I want to die." And I really meant it, because this suffering was so painful. I'd rather die. And so when I said that, she kind of got scared. Finally got scared. And she went outside and she told my dad. And then it was my dad, I guess, who went into the lobby and said, "My daughter is violently sick. We need to get a physician. Is there a physician, or can we get ambulance or something. And then they found a German physician who was also there on vacation in that hotel. That was a very popular resort for German vacationers. And that doctor came into my room, and when he saw me, he got real mad at my parents. Real mad. He hollered at him, and he said, "How can you let this illness go so far?" And he gave me the medication that got rid of the salmonella. I don't know. I think those are bacteria that are very, very vicious, and they're actually, I think they're actually bigger than bacteria. I think they're actually parasites, but like ultra microscopic. They're just like just a handful of cells, like multicellular, but like flagellating type of multicellular organisms, but very, very, very microscopically small, and they cause unbelievable torment in the body, in the intestinal tract, and who knows, even causing this fever, this inflammation. I don't know if they even go into the brain. But he gave me the medication, and I instantly let off. And I was getting better already in just a few hours. And then one day later, I was able to get up again and eat and go with them to the cafeteria and eat something. And I was skin and bones. And I was really, really weak. And that physician was real furious at my parents and hollered at them. And my parents didn't want to own up to it at all. They didn't want to admit that they did anything wrong, as they usually don't admit. Okay. And so I felt for the most part very let down by my parents, by both of them. That was absolutely horrific what they did, letting me get that sick and not getting a physician right in the beginning. And my mother being so cold to me when I screamed for her help when I saw that monster. And the way she acted, almost like she acted like I did a prank on her or something. And here I was in total terror. So it's sad. So it's that energy, it's that kind of psychology that I grew up with, and that's why I suffer from mental illness. That's why I have OCD. That's why I have to wash everything excessively. I feel contaminated. Not so much because of the salmonella, but because I felt I felt like I need to wash particles from other people off me. And that definitely has to do with the trauma from my parents. And also with sexual abuse. That has a lot to do with that as well. So feeling let down, feeling like they're not on my side. They're more alien than the alien was. So it's very sad. Looking back on this now, I feel like I want to give that alien a hug. It's like, what's the mindset I have now? I feel like, but I think that alien was also afraid, but curious. So I feel like I would go into the bathroom and open my arms and say, "Come, give me a hug." Or if you want to, you can kill me and take me to your comet, like the Heaven's Gate or whatever. Because I don't like being there with my family. They're not nice to me. So take me to your spaceship. Show me your home. Show me your planet. Maybe you live in the nebula. Love nebula. And you can take me there, and then much later on, like just like about 2 years ago or 1 year ago, I had this dream of an alien disguised as a woman with stiletto shoes coming, picking me up in his spaceship. And when we got to his home, he shapeshifted back into a man. And I was like, wow, I guess he disguised himself as a woman to make me not so afraid, because he knew I'm afraid of men, actually. I'm very afraid of men. It's all sad. And it has to do with my trauma. And it has to do with what's happening in society. A lot of them are acting psychopathically. And that makes me very afraid. I don't want to be around someone who is violent. So, and all of this is very lonely. And this is just a that's will continue throughout my whole life. The loneliness. And now I live with Paul, who is kind of like, and it's not a form of autism, but it's something else, some kind of, this is another type of lopsidedness of the brain. He doesn't, he has a real hard time with language processing and paralanguage and jokes. He doesn't know what a joke is really, and he doesn't have a sense of humor. And so the personal touch in his brain is not there. He did. So when I talk to Paul, it's like I will say to him, I don't know, let me use an example. I'll say to him, I saw something on the internet. I saw an alien story, or someone told an alien story, and this alien looked like this. And then the way his brain processes this, instead of just letting me talk and just listening or just saying, oh, that's interesting, he'll say something um like, so what do they who came up with that story, and what's the reason for that story, or what do they want to accomplish with that story? Do they want to I don't know, it's probably a bad example now, but he has said some things. When I would report something to him, the feedback that he gives me is so unfriendly, but not meant by him in an unfriendly way, but it comes across as completely disconnected to me and even to reality, that I've often really wondered, and made me feel so left alone. Like when I had the panic attack in 2012, was it early October 2012, I had a violent panic attack that lasted for half a year. It was a psychotic episode. It was really intense. I've never experienced anything like this before in my entire life. Not even the encounter with that alien. I was very afraid and shocked in all of it, because you see something that's so out of the ordinary. But the panic attack in 2012, that really was the worst thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And And that happened through a conglomeration of things, including the way Paul had hollered at me that one day nonstop. I was driving and there were a bunch of sticks in the road. It was like a back road that we took, and we had Kenny, our Great Dane, in the Prius. We still had the Prius, and the Prius doesn't have very high ground clearance, so there were all these sticks on the road, and he kept on screaming, "You have bad eyesight. You don't see those sticks. You need to stop!" And like really screaming at me because he didn't want a stick or a rock to scrape on the bottom and maybe causing some damage or something. So afraid of damage to property that he will put that above me, above my nervous system. Then he completely loses touch with reality in that moment. And then also, whenever I told him anything, and that night I saw something on the internet that scared me very much, and the way he reacted to it, so cold, it's like was this, like a cop, like he's interrogating me instead of listening and being there for me. He would ask me some real weird questions about some kind of subject that make no sense. And so all of this is a continuous thing throughout my life. I feel like I am surrounded. If I even have friends at all, then I have, or in person, then I have a friend who is basically not really present psychologically. And it's very sad, all of it. And it was extremely sad what happened in Kenya. Infinitely sad. But I wanted to tell that story, and that alien that I saw was way nicer than my parents or my brother or actually anyone I have ever met. And that alien was actually there for me. That was probably a baby alien, and showing through the ether and saying, "Oh, I see you, human. Do you see me? I see you. That's interesting. Oh my God." And I feel like, let's make friends no matter what happens. I'll go with you to your planet. Okay, so anyway, peace and love.